Hello again, everyone, and welcome back. I am Mark Thompson with Watermark Data. You are watching Alteryx Tutorials. Today's session is going to be covering weekly challenge number 104. And this is a challenge that came to us from about February of 2017. And it was talking about, it was trying to get cute, and it was saying, hey, more than love is in the air, there are particles of dust and dirt. And what this challenge talks about is air quality. And I'm going to zoom into this, and there are different parts of that. There's nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, that all lead to the air quality index. And this is what we're going to be talking about in today's challenge. Now, you'll note that today's challenge has a lot of tools and a lot going on. I'm going to talk about that aspect, and really what you'll see as we go through this, and I organize what you're looking at, is that it's not as many as you might think, and that there are patterns to certain things that you're doing. Let's go ahead and get started with our opening piece, and that is we have a YXDB, an Alteryx database, and as you can see down here, a little over 400,000 records. And we're going to take these records and all of this information that we've got down here, and we're going to isolate it down into a report that breaks out the different pieces of the air quality for you. To do this, we start out and we've got this database. The first thing we do, and this is important for all, we're going to isolate down to what we want to talk about. And in this case, we're going to isolate to the city of Denver. Now, it could have been the state of Colorado or the county or some other state, but what we're going to talk about is Denver. And you see right away that it changes from 400,000 records. We're now talking about 2,300 records. Huge. The next piece that's important is to understand that when you're given a set of data, a lot of that, and notice we have 21 fields here. A lot of that is information that you don't really need. It's distraction, it's noise, and it's going to get in your way when doing your analysis. So it's to your benefit to take and remove the data that's noise. We do that, we're going to come up here, we're going to use a select tool, and you can see all of the different things that we've deselected. And the only thing we're leaving is a local date, the NO2, the O3, and the SO2. Okay? We want to talk about air quality. And when you do that, now you're down to 4 fields. Notice I even got rid of the city. Really, we know it's Denver. We filtered for it. If you want to leave that column in there for heading purposes and for labeling, you can go ahead and do that. But really, we no longer need it. Therefore, we're taking it out. The next piece we're going to is add in a formula tool. And I'm going to expand this. Actually, I'm going to collapse it first. And notice, wow, a whole lot of formulas. But really, we're going to, again, understand and group. We've got 3 formulas that deal with date. Let's take a look at those real quick. We have a date, time, month. We want to know, using the local date, that one field that we saved, we want to know what is the month. Next, we want to know what is this month, because we want to compare our current month to what has it been like in that same month in prior years. And so we do this, we say, hey, let's grab date, time, month again with a date, time, today. And you can see that the data over here. And lastly, a date, time, format formula to capture what year are we talking about. And those quotes, %, Y is the format that you need, the syntax, so that it captures a 4-digit year. Let's go ahead and close those up. Let's take a look at the next 3. These are all the exact same formula. The only difference being in one, we look at NO2, and another SO2, and the third O3. You can tell when you take a look at these formulas, and I'm going to get to a detail in a moment, they are all the same. It's an if-then. If it's less than this many particles, then it's good. Else if this many particles, moderate. Else if, else if, else if, and then finally hazardous. Now notice in these 2, I did this on purpose for the video and to help you. In this case, I put in a number of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 before the text that I've got there. And in this case, I didn't. This is a good idea in case you want to sort and leverage these different things and keep it in the same order. Because if you look, okay, we've got a G, M, U. Oh, wait a minute, there's another U. V, okay, that's good. And then what about H? These aren't in alphabetical order. So if you want to sort them, you're going to end up with things out of order from priority that I have identified. So it's a good idea to potentially, if you're doing this kind of an if else if then statement, to go ahead and put a number in there. And we'll leverage this towards the end, and you'll see what I mean. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about, and actually do it while I'm working through today, which is a little different than what I've done in the past. And I've talked about capturing a comment and dragging it onto the canvas to be able to group things together. And we do this, we position this, and then we change the size on it. And then we right-click it, we send to back, and let's give this a color. Now my colors are sorted in order, and I've put this custom color palette in here in the order that I use. So my inputs, I use this kind of a pastel aqua, I guess you would say. I'm a little bit colorblind, so apologize if that doesn't line up with what you have. And now we've got these grouped, and we can say in here, we can call this data input and identification. And now we've got this labeled. What is this whole group of tools doing? Okay. Let's finish out using this set of tools. So we just went through these formulas. Now we want to filter down even more and say, we want to look at this month. Well, we've got a custom filter where month equals this month. We want those two together. And you see in our true statement, this is what you've got down here in the false. We get rid of another 2,100 records. This again isolates down what are the records that we're actually dealing with. Now we're down from 400,000 to a little under 200. The next piece, and you don't have to do this. I do this to keep clear and keep track of what's going on. I put in another select tool and I get rid of all of those items. Notice what we've got here, and when I click on the select, it really isolates it down to NO2, O3, SO2, and year. And all of these things are unchecked. This helps consolidate and helps you work with only what you need to work with. Good practice. The next piece, a whole bunch of tools here. The important point to remember is if you look at them, really they end up being the same thing. And we're going to break this into 3 different tracks, if you will. The first one is we're going to have a key column of years, and we're going to only capture in our data column the NO2. And then we've got these values out here. This next one is the exact same thing, except for instead of NO2, we're now looking at O3. And now we're looking at SO2. Next, we're going to take these and we're going to summarize them. And what you get is it's grouped by year, name, and then we're grouping by the values, and we're getting the count of those values. Next thing you do is we flip it. We use a crosstab to take this value, and mind you, it's the exact same thing for all 3 of these. But we take and we flip these so that we've got a name, a value, and now we've got this year out here, and we've got our particles, right? We've got our particles. Lastly, we've got a browser, and this is really just as you're in the investigation stage. What have we got? What have we got? Again, let's take and organize all of this. I'm going to grab another comment tool. I'm going to drag it onto the canvas. And I will again expand. I'm having a little trouble amine and position it, right click, send to back. I come over here, and I showed you this once in another video, but one of the things you want to be careful of is how bright or what you choose for your colors. To go extreme, I'm going to capture this really bright red and tell it okay. And wow, two problems here. First of all, you've got all of these items that are from the transform menu that are red. And second of all, that red strikes as really harsh, really jarring. I like to use more of a pastel type color on my boxes. Now I say okay, and it's much softer, you can tell. I'm going to expand this just a little bit, and I'm going to move this up. And now we talk about organize the data into its pieces. You can call this whatever you want, whatever makes sense to you. I'm doing this on the fly, to be honest with you. And really, I might take this box and I would probably expand these two columns as well. This union tool, now take a look what you see in this browser, and you see this here, and this browser, and this browser. These are all the same values and these same years. We're now going to union these together, and you can see union by position, or if you want to confirm that they're all the same, you can go manually configure and make sure that these are all union. Next thing we'll do is we'll sort these. And this is what I was talking about, sorting these back when we took that into consideration back here. We're going to sort these by the name, so we've got this NO2, and the values, so that we're in 1, 2, 3. Now these other two values don't happen to have other values other than good. Hey, must have been great to be in Denver the last number of years. If they did, however, these would also be sorted in the correct order. Lastly, to finish this off, I actually did this in two different ways. I actually created the same information, and this is to show you and to talk about the idea that there are often more than one way. There's often more than one way to approach something. In this top track here, I do, and notice what I've got when I come out of here and when I finish here, right? We sort, and we're doing a value. And here I'm doing a formula that says, hey, if this contains the value of good, then name. So if this contains the value of good, and notice we're doing it on the name column. So we're identifying the name column. If this has a value of good, then name. So good, great, name. Else, nothing. What that does is it clears those out. It, in a sense, creates a little bit of a table where you've got the NO2, good, moderate, and unhealthy. You've got the O3, and you've got the SO2. This is a way to organize your data, and it clears out the values in these. And it's for presentation purposes that I do this. Now I send it to a basic table, and I want all of these in here. And mind you, I come here and I do an edit rows, and I create a rules, and I say for repeating names, and I give it a style so that when it comes out, it has a different color for these rows. Mind you, I've got to come over here to the browser to see it, but this is what we've got. Now it's saying good on these because it's green. I didn't go through on this table and tell it green with a 1. Notice down here, it will do the same thing. It's knowing the difference between good and 1.good. For this column, I'm doing a test name. See, I've created this test over here. Then I use a multi-row formula and say, hey, if test name equals row minus 1, test name, else nothing. Name and if. And this does the exact same thing of getting rid of those values in here. Notice I don't have to do a contains because I had created another field over here that said test name. So are these the same? And that's what it's leveraging off of, not the value. It's not leveraging the value in this case. Finally, I don't need that test name anymore. So I simply douse it. I create the table and I export it. One final tip, and this helps clean things up too, and says if name value this, instead come over here to your annotations, and instead of having this great big title, clean name. And you can put whatever you want, but the idea is to make it smaller and watch what happens, how much cleaner that looks. Same thing here. I could come over here, I click on this, and instead of having all of this stuff that automatically gets populated with the formula, I can now just say clean name or present name or whatever you want to put in there. That's not the important point. The point is, look at how much cleaner that looks. Same thing with this sort. You know what? This is messy to me. So I can come in here and say name. And apparently it already done this, but let's even make it a little bit cleaner. ASC, ascending. Make it smaller, make it clean. Now look at how that looks. As a final piece to this, let's go ahead and in our favorites menu, we're going to grab one more comment and I'm going to box in that. And I'm fond of using a kind of a pastel green for my output. So I tell it okay, right click, send to back, come up here, let's give it some kind of information, say output report data. And now what you see when you back out, this is a much, much cleaner look than what we started out with. And if you wanted to clean it up even more, you can go through and do things like this, where you've already created your information. You've already created the browser. Let's go ahead and capture all of this stuff and let's move that down. All of this starts to help everything look a little tidier, a little cleaner, easier to understand and digest. I am Mark Thompson. This has been Watermark Data, Alteryx Tutorials. I hope you've enjoyed today's session. We covered a lot of information, a lot of tools, and a lot about organizing your data. Please hit like, please hit share, and of course, we always welcome any comments that you have. Until next time, we will see you.